What up? It's me again, Addie. Welcome back to addiespace. It has been a long time since I recorded my last podcast episode. I don't even remember when that was, a few years ago. And a lot has changed since then. I have very short hair now, and I have also changed countries. So I'm living in a different country, so that's cool. Done a lot of things, been a lot of places, seen a lot of the world. But here I'm back again to show you what I've been up to because I really wanted to be filming more knitting podcasts. But the only thing that's holding me back is that I really hate video editing, which is at least 50% of making a video, if not more. So I have kind of been avoiding this task. But now that it's the holidays and I have some time off work, I think I can do it. We'll see. If you're watching this, then I did it. Let's get started. Okay, so the first project we're going to talk about is the porcelain sweater by LE Knit. This is a very, very famous pattern and very, very popular. It pops up a lot on my Instagram feed because it just looks timeless and great in so many different colors. The recommended yarn for this pattern is Saskie Pure Gint, held with a mohair, and the suggested needles are 3 and 4 millimeters. And if you haven't seen the pattern, it's like this banded colorwork jumper that's originally in the photos with a kind of natural white undyed base and then a bright blue, so it looks like porcelain. I decided to knit mine also in white and blue. And I didn't use the recommended yarn because I didn't want to order it. I found some other yarn in a local yarn store by me called Lana Cool Merino, I believe, and also holding it with the Lana Grossa silk mohair. And that's what I used for this project. Now, unfortunately, the Lana Grossa Cool Merino is way thicker than Tin Pure Gint. So I don't know what I was thinking. I think I was still a bit new to the knitting game, and I wasn't quite, got my head in the game. So the end result is really, really big. It grew a lot. And in fact, I think, again, I don't really know I don't think I gauge swatched for this project, but looking at my Ravelry notes, instead of using 3 and 4 millimeter needles as the pattern suggests, I ended up using 5 and 4.5 millimeter needles, and I definitely didn't change any of the stitch counts. So I should have expected that this thing would be way, way oversized. This was my first ever colorwork jumper. I did make some modifications to it. Let's discuss them. I increased the stitch count for the sleeves instead of decreasing, which is a very bold decision by past Addie. Yeah, it means that this basically has bell sleeves. And then with the oversized stitches, because I knit this at a larger gauge, it means that the sleeves kind of just go everywhere when I'm wearing it. They're very large. They're very in charge. Another thing I modified was the bottom hem. And I believe in the pattern, you're just supposed to do 1 by 1 rib, cast off, normal sweater vibes. I decided to do a split hem with 2 by 2 ribbing, which I then matched the 2 by 2 ribbing on the sleeves, but not on the collar. For God knows why. I guess I just didn't want it to match. But the split hem I do recommend as a detail doing. I find that it helps if you don't like that cinched in look at the very bottom. This is my spouse. But if you don't like the very cinched in look at the bottom of your sweaters and that poof that kind of happens because the rib cinches in, then split hem is a great way to go because it basically eliminates all of that, but you still get a very nice polished and finished look. And because it's split hem, it's a lot easier to make the back side longer than the front side. You just knit more rows on the back if that's something that also bothers you. Like sometimes I like having just a little more coverage on the butt area. So that's a great way to do it. Another thing I modified was the neckline. I don't know what gave me the confidence or what gave me the belief that I could make all these modifications on like maybe the third sweater I've ever knit. But I was feeling confident and bold, clearly, because I also modified the neckline. I think in the pattern, again, you pick up some amount of stitches and you just do one by one rib. Yeah, maybe it's folded. I don't even know. I don't think I looked at the instructions for that section. But I did one by one rib. It looks like I probably picked up a lot more stitches than the pattern suggests as well, because the neckline is quite wide on the pattern that I knit. And I also added these really strange decreases in the backs of the necks on either side. Again, couldn't really tell you what my thought process was there, other than I was trying things out. I was having a good time. I honestly don't think it's that bad. I think it looks kind of weird. In the white, I don't know, it's somewhat forgiving because you can't see the decreases that well. In this case, you can't see the decreases. It's fine. It does something. It makes the neck, I guess I wanted the neckline to sit instead of straight up, a little more flat on flush on the neck, but I really don't think it was necessary. And I think that if you do look at it closely, you can see the decreases and it looks a little weird and not quite as polished as I would personally like it. I really wish I had gone with the tin pier gint instead of this cool merino, because it's so big, it's quite heavy to wear, and then the sleeve increases. I don't wear bell sleeves, so I don't know what I was thinking when I was like, yeah, let's do some bell sleeves. Like, I don't have any other articles of clothing in my closet that has bell sleeves. We have time-tested history that proves that I don't wear bell sleeves, but I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make bell sleeves. So that's another reason why I don't wear it. The bell sleeves kind of just get in everything. I don't even know if they're bell sleeves, but they're just increased sleeves. The sleeves are huge. The sleeves are huge. So I don't really wear it that much. But it's really warm. The cool merino with the silk mohair makes this a warm piece, and this is definitely something, because it's so oversized as well, that I can put on top of my other clothes and just easily throw it on when it's very cold outside. So this is definitely, I would say, my warmest knitwear piece, and for that, it's good. Okay, the next pattern that I knit up, and this is the first one that's actually in 2025, that I started in 2025 and finished in 2025. Bang off first day of the year, it's in January sometime, is because I went to Cologne and bought this really beautiful skein of hand-dyed yarn, I think by Hedgehog Fibers, and honestly, I forget the name of the color, but it's this it's Bridget. But it's this absolutely gorgeous blues with oranges in them. It's got some heft to it, I'll just say that. But yeah, it's a beautiful skein. And I wanted something to knit that would use approximately one skein of hand-dyed yarn and also show off the colors as they look when the skein is wound. We have all been there where you buy a skein of hand-dyed yarn and it looks a certain way when it's wound up in a cake, but then when you go to knit it, it starts pooling in ways that you didn't expect, and it suddenly kind of transforms into just something different that you maybe weren't expecting. So in order to mitigate that, I found this, I believe, free pattern that is called Celebrate the Skein by Susan Ashcroft, and it advertises exactly what I was looking for. Uses one skein of DK weight hand-dyed yarn, and it does, the whole pattern is in brioche stockinette, which, if you know about brioche, and I don't know that much about brioche, so excuse me, but it really helps mitigate the whole pooling thing, because you're kind of like alternating stitches similar to double knitting. And that, yeah, just makes it, when you knit it up, so that it looks a lot closer to how it looks like when it's wound. So I decided to do this again, I don't know what I was feeling, but I was in my confident era. I decided to modify this pattern too. Huge mistake, huge, because I don't like the final result and I never wear it. Unfortunately, the only modification I made was to, I don't know why, but make it so skinny. It's like maybe 10 stitches across. Why I decided to do that, I don't know. Maybe I was having like some skinny scarf fantasy, but even for a skinny scarf, this is way too thin. And I also just don't really wear skinny scarves that much. I much prefer wider, thicker scarves, but I think I was just feeling lazy. So I did not knit this wide as I should have, at least for my own preferences. I think for a skinny scarf, it's okay. But unfortunately, when you just knit it so thin, because of the brioche stockinette, it curls a bit on the edges too. You can see that, hopefully. So I don't know. I just wish that it laid flat. Maybe if it laid flat, it'd be okay. But as it is, it curls on the edges. It's too skinny. I feel like when I wear it, I'm just like strangling myself, which is not the vibe that I was going for. I want like something big and cozy. I don't think it looks bad. I did also hold one strand of mohair with this. This was held with the, what did I use? I think the Lana Tilia, yeah, in this nice ice blue color. And that mohair is lovely and soft. And so the whole thing is just very plush and soft. And it feels fine. It's not itchy at all. I think if I did wrap it around twice, it does provide enough warmth to be a very functional scarf, but it's just more the style that I didn't think that I liked, but now that I'm looking at it in the camera, I'm like, yeah, it's not so bad. Maybe I could wear this. So who knows? Maybe this was the kick that I get to just stop caring about the skinniness and start wearing the goddamn scarf. After I had this scarf kind of thing, I had another idea of knitting mittens. And I found the pattern, the Chantal Mittens. This is by Moreka Knit. And it's these beautiful, beautiful mittens that are knit in all over slipped stitch pattern and recommended to be knit up in one skein of Cardiff cashmere, which is, if you've ever touched, incredible. So, 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 so soft, so luxurious feeling. So I asked my partner to buy me some cashmere Cardiff Classic for Christmas as a Christmas gift, and he obliged. He did, in fact, buy me one skein of this beautiful, beautiful red color cashmere. And so I knit up the size medium for myself on 3mm needles. Oh, I believe I did, no, sorry, I did need 2 skeins, not just one. And I mean, there's not much to say. They're gorgeous, they're beautiful. I didn't realize how easily breakable or how fragile cashmere is, because, or at least the Cardiff cashmere, which is the only cashmere I've ever tried, because on, I think, the first time wearing these mittens actually out in the wild, I was holding on to a railing, a metal railing, and it got snagged on some like old chipped paint or something, and it actually broke the fiber, one of the fibers. So I don't really know how to fix that. I might have to dig into my stash, the leftover scraps of the Cashmere Cardiff Classic, and try to mend the hole somehow. I'm not very good at mending, but yeah, that's on my to-do list. So it was a little sad. I was definitely sad. And it also made me hesitant to wear them again, because I was like, I'm a clumsy bitch. I'm just gonna break them again. You know, as soon as I mend them, I'm gonna snag them on something else. Another reason why I don't wear these pair of mittens that often is because they're actually not very warm. Compared to, I have also knit the penny fingerless gloves by Petite Knit, holding just a strand of fingering and a silk mohair. And those, even though they are fingerless, are significantly warmer than these mittens. And I'm thinking that it maybe has something to do with the slip stitch of these mittens. The pattern, the slip stitch pattern is gorgeous. The increases just look, especially around the thumb gusset, look so, so, so good. And that's what I wanted. They look polished. They look like store-bought. But I think because of the slip stitch, it doesn't provide that much warmth. So if I'm wearing these on a day when I actually need hand warmth, then I feel the wind penetrate through immediately and they're just not warm enough. So that's another reason why, unfortunately, I have not been wearing these mittens as much as I would have liked to. But moving on to our next project, let's talk about another shawl that I knit, or another scarf. This is called the Winspan, and it's by Mylan with Tricoterie Designs. I used Zauberball, and this is a light fingering 100 grams. Yeah, so about, I guess, a light fingering 100 grams is what you're supposed to be able to use for this. And it just has this really cool triangular pattern that's knit up using short rows and casting on extra stitches. And with the Zauberball, because it's color changing, it just creates this insane gradient that looks kind of like wings. Yeah, I don't know if I did something wrong, but mine did not look like how I wanted it to look. I'll put the photo of how it was supposed to look and then maybe a photo of what mine looks like. Mine is giving Balatro Joker for sure, is what the feedback that I've gotten when I wear it. I look a little bit like a courtyard jester. And I don't think that's the pattern's fault. I think that must have been maybe a gauge issue with me. Probably, I definitely didn't gauge swatch for this project. I don't think I even looked at the gauge, so probably a gauge issue. This is back in my no gauge swatching era. But we have learned since then that if you want something to look right, you need to gauge swatch. So yeah, another project. I really started off the year with not such a great project track run that I don't wear. I just don't wear this one because I think it makes me look like a jester. But it's beautiful. I would recommend it. Maybe gauge swatch. Maybe gauge swatch and it'll come out gorgeous. First big project of 2025, that was the Terracotta sweater. Another project colorwork motif jumper by LE Knits. It's kind of like the sister sweater, I would say, to the porcelain one. Another gorgeous pattern recommended to be knit in, again, tin pure gint with the silk mohair as well by Saskie. And this time I actually listened to the pattern recommendation for yarn, which is a theme that I then carried for a lot more of the rest of the year because I started realizing how much easier that is to do. So it's knit on 4mm and 3mm needles. The gauge is 27 stitches per 10 centimeters, and I used 6 skeins of yarn of the tin pure gint. Now you're supposed to hold this with a mohair, but I didn't. So instead of holding with a mohair, instead of knitting the very smallest size, I knit one size up from my recommended size, and I ended up with a garment that's still kind of oversized, maybe not as oversized as the pattern photos, but it's enough. And I mitigated the fact that I was supposed to hold it with a mohair and probably knit this at like a DK gauge, and instead I knit the whole thing at probably closer to a fingering gauge. The reason that I don't wear this as much as I would like to is because I added an extra panel of color work at the bottom that I designed myself. And not that I think that it like looks terrible, but it just doesn't match the rest of the color work bands. And yeah, that was on me. I wanted the sweater to be significantly longer because this was also in my era of super, super long sweaters. In general, I like to wear oversized and significantly longer clothes. So I was like, oh, well, I can't have this ending at a reasonable length. Like it needs to be way, 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 way longer. So I added a whole extra color work motif, but it just doesn't really match the rest of the sweater, unfortunately. Everything else I like. I don't think I modified either. Maybe the neckline. I think maybe This is something that I do with a lot of patterns. A lot of patterns suggest to knit more rows of ribbing for the neck, but I just prefer shorter necklines so that it's not against my neck as much. So I think I shortened the neckline probably by 5 rows or something. I also added like a high-low hem because this was fresh off of my porcelain sweater where I did the split hem, and then I had the longer hem on the back. And I was like, oh, I want that, but I don't want to do a split hem again. Maybe I'll just do some short rows to lengthen the back of the hem. And so I had this whole thing planned where it's like it's supposed to be an S shape and then kind of curve into a longer butt. I don't know. I think I didn't do the math that well, and I just kind of bounced into it. I don't think it looks that great. I don't think it looks terrible, but because of the short rows, it kind of bunches up around the butt area, and so gives a little bit of a curve right on the butt, which I don't know. It's not really my vibe. I prefer something that just lays flat. It's actually to the point where because of the hem and then also the extra band of color work that I added, I have been considering going back and re-picking up the stitches right before the color work that I added and then re-knitting the hem, maybe with an actual split hem or something this time. I don't know, we'll see. It's on my, I think if I did this, then I would actually get way more wear out of the sweater list, but it's also like, I'm lazy. Do I want to? No. Kind of lazy. But I think eventually, in the future, I think it could happen. It's not that much of a sweater surgery. Yeah. So I think once I do that, then hopefully I'll be able to wear this sweater a lot more. I also knit the Petal Drop socks. These are a free pattern, lace sock pattern by Florence Miller. I knit the size 1 on 2.25 millimeter needles, and I just use a very general sock yarn. It's called the Schachtenmeier Regia that I just found in my local store. The eyelets are super pretty. They're just a very nice introductory lace sock if you're new to knitting lace and eyelets, which I was. Yeah, I would say the yarn choice leaves something to be desired. I purchased a very cheap sock wool, and it just doesn't really do the lace justice, I find. It makes things poke out at spaces, which I'm not sure why it does that. And then also the toe box. When I cast off, it's got a little toe ear flap. And I've been using this tutorial on how to get rid of the toe flaps, and it works for just about every other pair of socks that I've knit. So I think it's just the yarn for this one is a little unforgiving, and it just, pokes out in weird ways. Also, if it's your first time knitting lace socks, keep in mind that eyelets and lace grow a lot. Like they make a very stretchy fabric. So you can probably use fewer stitches than you would if you were knitting, for example, something that tightens the fabric up, like colorwork socks or cabled socks. You might need to knit a larger stitch circumference sock. But for these lace eyelets, it really opens up. So that's something I also wish I had known before I knit these socks, because I think I probably could have sized down. We're getting there. I knit a lot of things this year. I need to chill. So the next project is maybe one of my favorite projects of the whole year. It is the T #1 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I knit the size medium, and the recommended yarn for this, I believe, is Gepard Wild and Soft, held with Gepard Silk something, maybe? I'm not entirely sure, but it's supposed to be knit basically in like woolish area. Maybe some cotton in there, maybe some silk, but like wool. For sure, wool. And because I've watched NE Knits podcasts religiously, because she's my favorite knitting podcaster, I knew that I did not want to knit this with any wool content in it, just because it's a t-shirt. And I figured I wouldn't get as much wear out of it if it was too warm to wear in the summer. So I wanted something that was definitely summer fibers, and I went for cotton, linen, and silk. I bought Ito Kinu, which is a strand of silk, and then the Pasquale Nepal, which is a fingering weight cotton linen mix. And what's interesting is you can actually see the two strands twisted together, one strand of cotton, one strand of silk, one strand of cotton, one strand of linen. And because they're dyed slightly different colors, you can see them twisted together, which makes, I think personally, a really interesting fabric. So I held those two together and knit this up in size medium on 3.5mm needles, I believe. Yes. I did not make many. Did I make any? I don't think I made any modifications to this pattern either, except maybe the length. This one I actually did knit fairly cropped, at least for my standards. I even knit it to a body length that was shorter than the recommended pattern. But I am a fairly short person, so it doesn't actually look as cropped, I think, on me. Knitting with cotton, linen, and silk is pretty tough on the hands, of course, but it was so worth it because the end result just looks so polished and it feels incredible because it's the perfect weight for summer and spring and even fall. Like, it just feels like a normal cotton shirt. I think in hindsight, I probably could have done without adding the strand of silk because the end resulting fabric is quite dense and quite therefore stiff. Like, it does not have the drape that I might have wanted. But on the other hand, I kind of like that it's stiff and dense because that means it's really not see-through. Like, it truly just feels like a normal store-bought cotton shirt, which I love. And the blue color that resulted is just incredible. Everything together, it's maybe not groundbreaking, but with it all together, it looks so polished and so store-bought that I've even had other knitters ask me if I knit this because they're just so shocked that it could be knit. Yeah, so highly recommend this pattern. I actually do wear this one a lot in the summer because it's just so comfortable to wear. After knitting the T number 1, I was a bit knitted out. That project took a long time. I think it took me approximately 2 months, maybe even 2.5. And it was hard on the hands because of the cotton linen viscose, cotton linen silk. So I was like, I just want to knit something that is small, short, sweet, stockinette, don't have to think about it too much. So I knit the Stockholm slip-over V-neck for my partner. I had actually knit the Stockholm slip-over V-neck for myself last year in 2024, and I think it looks really good. I liked the pattern. It's just a very classic V-neck, simple, to the point, doesn't do anything crazy. So I decided to knit one for my partner. Unfortunately, my partner is significantly bigger than I am. He's a very tall guy. And the pattern is written, I would say, with more of a female body shape in mind, or at least AFAB body shape in mind. So I knew from the get-go that I would have to be doing some modifications to this in order for it to look a little more masculine in the desired style of my partner's. Furthermore, my partner also doesn't like deep V-necks, and this one has a fairly deep V-neck. So I wanted to decrease the depth of the V-neck and then widen the shoulders significantly to fit a more of a AMAB body type. Yeah, so I tried to do that. Spoiler, it didn't really go that great because I should have just done the math, but I wasn't doing the correct math. I was just kind of winging it. I think the V-neck depth is fine, but what is not so fine, or what really needed help, was I needed to widen the shoulders significantly more. They're still quite tight on him, And furthermore, I knit too many increases in the row before joining in the round, and that causes the vest to flare out a lot as well. Anyways, I knit the size medium-ish, but with heavily modified stitch counts. I used Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino in slate green, which is gorgeous, gorgeous. It was my first time using Knitting for Olive Merino as well, and I found it to be quite interesting because by this time I have knit using a few different wools and merinos as well, and this merino definitely not itchy, but still, I don't know how, like a little bit felty, almost like you're touching felt is how I would describe it. I also don't think that it grew that much actually when blocking. So I did another gift knit for my best friend who loves, loves, loves rabbits. I was going to knit her the Saskie socks by Saskie & Co. This is a colorworks sock pattern that features a little rabbit head motif and then some moons with some stars as well. And it's super, super, super cute. I casted these on in some sock yarn. I chose a size that would fit, I think, my foot or maybe slightly bigger because we have similar sized feet. And then I realized that when you're knitting colorwork in socks, the gauge is so much tighter that it was so tight it wouldn't even go over like any adult foot, not even close. So I had to do a hard pivot. I changed these into fingerless gloves instead, and I'm honestly really happy with the result. I still think they're a bit tight for my friend, but they're not so tight that you can't wear them. They just feel a little compression-y, we'll put it that way. But that I think would be good for warmth. And I knit them in this green color, the leftover from the Petal drop socks that I was knitting, and then some white of the same brand, Regia sock wool. And they made, these just really, really cute little fingerless gloves. Next, I made the Oslo hat. So my best friend, her sister had a baby. We should all thank that baby because it's made me knit some incredible baby gift knits. And the first of that being the Oslo hat, but baby size. I didn't actually know. So the Oslo hat is a knit pattern by Petite Knit. I think she has sizes in there all the way from like newborn up until adult. I didn't know what size a baby should have, and I also didn't really know, like I think this was at this time maybe a 1 month or 2 month year old baby. So I just kind of winged it. I looked at a bunch of other Ravelry projects and the sizes, like the stitch count that they used for their own babies, and I went with 84 stitches, which actually was too big. This is knit up on 3mm needles, and it's just basically stockinette, then a little bit of purling for the brim. You fold up the brim, and then you do the decreases for the crown. For 84 stitches for around a 1 month old baby, it was definitely a bit big, but babies grow fast. So I think it was fine. The baby was still able to wear it when I gave it to them, and it fit them for a long time because it was a little too big for their tiny, tiny little baby head. And yeah, that ended up, I think, being fine. It wasn't so big that it was unwearable. I held 2 strands of fingering weight hand dyed sock yarn together in order to make this, and I was left from 100-gram hank. I was left with 39 grams left over, which is a lot. So it didn't really require that much yarn. Well, I mean, it's for a baby, so understandably. The next project was my magnum opus of the year. It is the Aase sweater by Henna Rimmen. And this is a beautiful, beautiful drop shoulder sweater with all over color work in this like 1950s Swedish handbag or Scandinavian handbag motif. And it's just gorgeous. The pattern photos and also a lot of the projects on Ravelry, they use this bright red and this natural warm colored white for this project, and I saw those pictures and I was like, don't change a thing, it's perfect already. I just need to do the exact same thing as whatever these people did to knit their samples. So that's what I did. I bought the exact same yarn. It was the Izzyr yarn spinny held with the Izzyr twinny, probably pronouncing those pretty terribly, sorry. And I got them in the exact same colors, 28S, 28, 58, and 50, and then 60S, or 6S, sorry, in the red and the kind of undyed / slightly warm white color. This was definitely, I would say, my most involved knit to date. It has, because for each color you're holding 2 different yarns together, then you have like 4 balls of yarn on this project at all times. And because it's all over color work, it's not like you can ever get less than that. However, I did see on a lot of other Ravelry pages that people were winding their 2 different yarns together already. So if you have access to a yarn swift and ball winder, then that's what I highly recommend. Just wind the 2 together into one giant cake, and then you only have 2 balls of yarn to work with. I knit the neckline a total of 3 times. The first time was way too tight. I could not get my head through easily. So I was like, ugh, I'll have to redo it. I redid it. I did folded stockinette because I love a good folded stockinette collar. But I picked up way too many stitches and I didn't do enough rows of the stockinette either. So the whole thing just flared out and it looked like really, really bad I-cord or like a rolled edge. Like it just was not giving what I wanted it to give. So I was like, oh my gosh, this project, I've spent so much money on it. I know it's going to take forever to knit. Like I really want it to look perfect. So I was like, okay, we're just going to follow exactly what it says in the pattern. Stop making these weird modifications, Addie. Just do what it says. So that's what I did. I did you pick up on both sides and then you kind of knit them together and then you cast it off with some, I think, twisted rib for the neck. And I made sure to bind off loosely this time and it actually fit. Thank God the whole thing worked. The picking up on both sides for the neckline is not something I've ever seen in any other knitting pattern ever before, but it was really, really interesting. I think a lot of people might argue that it's just not necessary because you can get the same look by either folding your knitting back over on itself, like double folded stockinette or double folded ribbed collars, which are much more popular. Or you could just forego the two knitting of like picking up on one side and then picking up on the other side and then knitting them together. Like you could just not pick up on the second side and just knit the front facing side. And you would also probably have just a fine time. But what I really liked about picking up on the other side and knitting the inside as well was that you could do it in a different color. And that just also, I mean, I know it's kind of dumb because you never see the inside of the collar when you're wearing it, but somehow it's just that small detail that makes this so much more professional looking in my opinion, and also just fun to look at. When I go to put on this sweater and I see that the inside has a little different color on the inside, it's just fun. It's cool. It makes me feel like I did something here. And I really like it. So that's a fun little detail. The sleeves are knit in the all over color work and then just binded off. What's fun is that the color work on the body and the color work on the sleeves are reversed. And I think that's just a really nice touch. Overall, super, super, super fun project. Even though it was all over color work and it looks really intimidating, you memorize the color work pattern super fast because it's just so geometric and it's always the same thing. And therefore I knit almost all of it without having to look at the pattern at all, like just even mindless. Like I was able to knit this kind of thing while talking to other people as well. So it was fine. You memorize the color work and then it just kind of flies by. And because of the color work and it's not stockinette, it's really nice because you feel like, oh, I'll just do one more repeat of the color work. You have goals to work toward and not just endless stockinette, which personally makes my brain shut down and I feel like I'm not making any progress at all. This one, you're like, oh, I know that for the whole body section, I want 10 pattern repeats. And then you always have the number 10 in your mind and you feel like you're actually making progress toward that. Yeah, highly recommend. It's a great pattern. It blocked out beautifully. I wore it when I got married. Enough said. I then knit the Featherlight shawl. This is a very specific pattern to a yarn shop called Beehive Wool Shop in Victoria, BC, which is my hometown, and that's why I knit it. You get the pattern for free when you buy a skein of certain yarns. The pattern just comes with it. I knit this one because my best friend was also knitting this, but she had been knitting this for like a year and a half and was still not finished. And I wanted to show her that it could be finished within, like the next week or so. It only takes one skein of lace weight yarn, which, yeah, it still is a lot of yarn to get through a whole skein of lace weight yarn. About 400 meters of yarn, but still it's not so bad, and you can do it within a week, which is what I did. I hammered this one out. It took me, I think, 6 days, but I was knitting a lot because I was on holiday. I was knitting every single day. It was on 3.75 millimeters, and it's just this all over garter stitch shawl with some increases to make a triangular shape. Yeah, I used the alpaca Folgetrad by Sandnes Garn, which is just this lace weight alpaca, and it was fine. It's really warm. I would say the alpaca is a little itchy, but I find alpaca itchy in general, so I was not too surprised. But it's not so itchy that I can't wear. And I have actually been wearing this shawl the most. I think just because it's plain. I knit it in a very neutral gray color, so it goes well with everything. And it's so light that it doesn't hurt my neck to wear for a long period of time. Oh, okay, we're nearing the end. So the last gift knit and the last finished object as well of 2025 was the baby bear sweater. And this is a pattern by Anne-Catherine Stoll. Anne-Catherine Stoll. And it's just this beautiful, so cute little baby jumper. It's got a little bear in intarsia on the front and then little bear ears that are 3D. And then it's got the two little buttons so that you can take your baby in and out without worrying too much about the head. Yeah, and it's a drop shoulder construction as well. It's so freaking cute. I knit the size 1, which was supposed to be for a 0 to 3 month old baby, but I'm giving it to a baby who is 3 to 6 month old. Now, I was a little scared when knitting this because on the Ravelry projects of people knitting this pattern, they all say that the gauge is so insanely tight that it's basically impossible to achieve unless you size down needles like 3 different sizes. So I was expecting that if I knit this on the suggested needles, that it would be significantly larger than what I intended, which is why I sized down. So I sized down to 0 to 3 months instead of 3 to 6 months. I did use the Socks Premium by Rico Design, light fingering in this blue color, and then also in white for the bare face part. And I think that yarn is quite thin because it's a sock yarn, that I maybe didn't need to worry about it being oversized as much as I did. And in fact, the final result, especially the sleeves, I felt were a bit too small. I did size down my needles once, so the pattern is recommended to be knit on 3mm needles, but I used 2.75mm. I think the end result is honestly probably the correct size, but the sleeves in particular could be even bigger. I think the body width is plenty wide, but if you want to make sure that the sleeves are wide enough, I would suggest knitting the body a little lower before joining in the round and then picking up more stitches for those sleeves. Overall, though, an insanely cute project. It only took me like a week, maybe just over a week, to knit this entire baby sweater because baby knits are just so fast. It was extremely enjoyable. I had so much fun doing the little nose, eye, and ear details, and I think it looks really, really polished, and I hope that the baby likes it and will be able to wear it, most importantly. And when I get photos, I will show you. That was it. We made it through all of the knits that I finished in 2025. Now there is only the current works in progresses. So I have 2 works in progresses. I have the Lana vest by Irene Lin. This was definitely inspired directly by NE Knits, Amy's version, because it just looks so beautiful, and that red is incredible on her, and I just saw it and I was like, I need that vest. The cabling is gorgeous. It's like this oversized cabled v-neck vest. I decided to knit in size 2. I'm using 5.5 millimeter needles, and I chose Lang Yang's Carpe Diem, which is like this kind of really thick wool, 70% merino wool and then 30% alpaca. And it is an Aran weight. You get about 90 meters per 50 grams. So it is quite, it is quite dense. I'm a little worried about it pilling already because it feels insanely soft. And usually I think that means that the yarn will pill. So I'm a little concerned that as soon as I wear it, it will pill, but we'll see. I have to give it the test of time. I haven't worn it yet. Maybe it will be fine. Who knows? I decided to knit this in gray because I had such success with my gray scarf that I was like, okay, clearly I at least wear the color gray and don't avoid it. I should just pick something maybe a bit boring, but just neutral that it will go with everything. So I chose this gray. The other project that I'm working on is the Monday sweater by Petite Knit. This is just a very plain all over stockinette raglan sweater. It has a double folded collar and a German short rows, and otherwise it just does not invent the wheel or reinvent the wheel. It just does everything that a raglan should do. It is supposed to be very, very oversized. I think like 20 centimeters of positive ease, which is kind of crazy. So I decided to knit the recommended size for my size, which is the size extra small. I'm knitting this on 4.5 millimeter needles, and I'm using the Isier yarn Tvinny held with this beautiful silk mohair that I bought in Denmark. So in Denmark, I went to this shop called Brunstrik. I went here because I watched the Katie Snooks video of all the places that she went in Denmark, in Copenhagen, when she was looking at yarn stores, and she went into this one called Brunstrik, and it was so pretty, and it had this most gorgeous hand-dyed mohairs and hand-dyed yarn on this one wall, and I really wanted to see it in person. I was in Copenhagen to get married, and I was like, if there's a day to splurge on a yarn purchase, today is the day that you get married. So I went there and I found this bright electric blue silk mohair that looks so blue that it's almost glowing. And I was like, that's the one. That's what we're gonna get. So I paired it with this equally beautifully bright royal blue, the Isier yarn Tvinny. I'm pairing it with this Suslerjet silk mohair. Sorry about the pronunciation, but it's so pretty. And when it's knit together, it looks seriously like it's glowing. Now, I think the gauge that I'm using with this, the Tvinny, is already on a thinner side of fingering weight, like probably a light fingering closer to. And then holding it with the mohair doesn't add that much thickness, but the mohair itself is so fluffy that it fills in all of the gaps, and it makes it look a lot less holey and gappy. So I think it's going to create a very, very light feeling and thin fabric, but with the mohair that's so fluffy, it will still be really, really warm. So I'm hoping that this will be the perfect winter jumper to just throw on, super oversized, light so that it doesn't feel like I'm wearing something heavy, but at the same time really, really warm. Basically the trifecta of what I would want in a winter jumper. All right, you guys, we did it. My throat is sore. I'm looking at an hour and 3 minutes of footage that I need to now edit. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you're having a great holiday wherever you are. I hope that you're not having to work through this season, but if you are, then I wish you good luck and you're doing God's work. Have a good time. I'm sending you a vibe wherever you are in the world. And what are you knitting? Let me know. Peace. I'll see you on addiespace next time.